Hello, everyone. It's Liz. Welcome to Tuesday. I hope everyone had a nice Memorial Day. It is gorgeous out, and we're starting to get some summer weather, which is both good and not so good. I gotta say, running in the morning with 74% humidity is kind of gross. And scratch out kinda and say very. I looked like Ted Stryker in Airplane. But on to our Netflix picks for today. There is some good new stuff on there. The first is The Lovebirds. So this is actually the first major US film release to just get I don't want to say just get, but to forego its initial theatrical release and go right to Netflix. There are a lot of films, especially the summer blockbuster movies, that are postponing or holding on to the hope that theaters will be open. Tenet is still keeping its July 17th date, so fingers crossed. So this stars Issa Rae, who's well known for her Awkward Black Girl web series and the show Insecure, and Kumail Nanjiani, who's best known for the show Silicon Valley and not last year's 2 years ago, the great movie The Big Sick. So this is starts off as a standard romantic comedy. A couple goes on a date and then they become embroiled in a murder mystery. It's actually akin to the Steve Carell, Amy Poehler, Tina Fey vehicle date night. Kind of the starts off normal and then, oh my gosh, it becomes a big to do. Or actually one of my favorite movies, Adventures in Babysitting. So I kind of like those things, or that plot in general. Overall, fun movie, great performances. It's nothing groundbreaking, but if you need a laugh, it'll do the job. And both Kumail Nanjiani and Issa Rae, especially Issa Rae, are very talented comedic performers. So if you want to get introduced to some new funny people, The Lovebirds would be great. Up next, we're going to go a little older with the film Magnolia. This is a Paul Thomas Anderson film from 1999. This was the movie that kind of broke him into the mainstream. So it's a bunch of interconnected stories. It is 3 hours long, but there's some great performances in there. Julianne Moore, Philip Seymour Hoffman, Laura Walters. It's an interesting movie, and it was one that I think when I saw it as a teen, I didn't quite understand it, but you get older and you appreciate films in a different way. Next is a movie not a lot of people like, but I actually really enjoyed. I really Babel, so that is Brad Pitt and Cate Blanchett. Um, Speaking of interconnected stories, this one is three stories in three different countries. Um, Brad Pitt and his wife traveling. She gets shot accidentally. Then we see the woman who's caring for their kids back in California, and that deals with the U.S.-Mexico border. And then finally, we see the story of a young deaf woman in Japan, and we actually see how all three of these stories connect together. I think it's overall a very good movie. I tend to like interconnected stories, especially when they're done well. The star of the movie for me, though, is Rinko Kikuchi, who plays the young deaf woman. She is fantastic in a non-speaking role. And I would say if there's any reason to watch this movie, it's for her segments alone. Up next, we're going to get into biopic territory, but fun biopic territory with The Runaways. So if you know who Joan Jett is, you probably know The Runaways, or at least have heard some of the songs. So this is about the very quick rise of that band. In the short life, the Runaways weren't really together that long, but it's Dakota Fanning as Sherry Curry and Kirsten Stewart as Joan Jett. And this was one of Kirsten Stewart's big roles that she did outside of Twilight. This is when the movies were still happening. And it's a good thing she did this because it was actually a good way to show the world, like, yes, I'm not Bella Swan. For the love of God, I'm not Bella Swan. I mean, good on. I will keep saying I do not begrudge her doing those movies. Everyone's got to eat, and pretty much both she and Robert Pattinson have spent the rest of their careers working with actual artistic directors. But I think overall, very good biopic. In both Fanning and Stewart are really good as Curry and Jett. Especially Stewart, she really disappears into the role, and I think Joan Jett herself said that Kirsten Stewart deserved an Oscar for playing her. So I gotta say, that's high praise if the person you're playing compliments you. Up next, we're gonna have an indie movie I saw about 2 years ago. Didn't know much about it, but trailer intrigued me. And this is called The Endless. This is definitely indie. I think it was made from under $1 million. That's rare even for indie movies now. It's about two brothers. They were a part of a cult. They escaped, and now they're going back to visit. And they start to notice that something is not quite right at the campground. So one brother actually says, "We weren't in a cult. We just lived in a commune." The older brother is far more guarded, and they start to realize there is a secret. There's something not quite right with the land. So there's some time travel, time loop in play. I don't want to say too much because this was a fun movie to watch and watch unfold, because you start to kind of get a sense of where everything's going. So if you want something with a little bit of sci-fi, but definitely isn't a big budget feature, has a lot of substance, I think The Endless is great. Um, going What do I have next? If you do want a big budget sci-fi feature, Avengers Infinity War is still on Netflix. They haven't all gone to Disney Plus. And I am of the minority opinion of Endgame. I thought, okay, pretty good way to wrap up the story, but I really liked Infinity War. And I guess I should say spoilers ahoy, but everyone in the world knows what happens at this point. I appreciated Infinity War because it was willing to go darker. It was willing to end on a down note. And in a lot of blockbusters, especially these superhero movies, they don't really like to get dark. And I'm not talking the Batman versus Superman, like dark, but we don't really see the heroes lose that much. Or if we do, they recover pretty quickly. So I think this movie having some tangible loss and having the Avengers, Earth's Mightiest Heroes, have to deal with that and deal with potentially something they can't solve. I think the Russo brothers did pretty well. There's a few things I'll dock it for. This movie truly does show that Chris Pratt, while very funny, is not a great dramatic actor. And I mean, Josh Brolin does a great job, but man, Thanos just looks a bit like Grimace, and it's a little hard to take him seriously. But still, overall, really good movie. And again, if I had to pick which one to watch, Infinity War Endgame, I would watch Infinity War, despite what happens to precious baby Spider-Man at the end. Anywho, on to the last two movies. The first is a cult classic now. Although it's 10 years old, that did kind of make me feel really old. Scott Pilgrim versus the World. I am a huge Edgar Wright fan. Hot Fuzz, Shaun of the Dead. Vastly underrated The World's End. Baby Driver is good. I don't like it as much of his other movies, but he just has such a flair for directing. He knows how to direct action scenes, and he's really good at making a live action comic feel, and he does this really well with Scott Pilgrim. It has Michael Cera as the titular Scott Pilgrim, Mary Elizabeth Winstead as Ramona Flowers, and it's basically him trying to navigate a romantic relationship with this girl, but he has to fight her evil exes first. It is a lot of fun. It is super inventive. It's one of the best, I would, definitely the best action comedy to come out this millennia so far. I think it does really well, but it's also really sweet at its core. So I would say try it out. You will probably enjoy it as much as I did. Finally, final recommendation of the day. I am so glad I've been waiting for this. Uncut Gems is on Netflix. So, if you did not see this movie last year, this is by far Adam Sandler's best performance. By the way, New Hampshire's own Adam Sandler. He plays a compulsive gambler, someone who really just cannot help but make his situation worse. And you're watching this movie, and it is like one long, almost panic attack, because you just want to shake this character and go, pay a bill for God's sake. But man, this movie takes you on a ride, and I love when a movie does that to me. This is directed by this Safdie brothers. I hope I'm saying it right. I actually didn't like their other movie, Good Time, that much, although I recognized on a technical level it was really good. But this, for me, is just great. It hooks you instantly. You're basically thrown into this character's world, and again, you do almost hate him to start off because you're just like, you're such an idiot, sir. But it's probably due to Adam Sandler's charisma. You can't help but kind of want him to win. And I love the curveballs this movie throws. And I love that it just sinks its claws into you. Is like, we are going on a ride and you are coming with. And any movie that can provoke emotional reactions or kind of make you feel just like, stop it, I'm anxious, I'm nervous. I think that's a good movie. I think robbed of Oscar nominations, I would have definitely put Adam Sandler up there for actor. I would have put it up there for editing, soundtrack. Yeah, disappointed this wasn't included. I definitely would have put the Safdie brothers up there instead of whoever directed Ford versus Ferrari. Seriously, if you did not get a chance to see Uncut Gems, I would. It's fantastic. It was one of the best movies of 2019. And proof that Adam Sandler can act. And this is why I get frustrated with Sandler sometimes, because I'm like, sir, why do you waste your time with these dumb comedies when you're legitimately great? I mean, we had the same thing after Punch Drunk Love. We're like, you're good. Why are you not doing more of this? But I digress. Again, I will reiterate, see Uncut Gems and go on a ride. Have a great day, and I will see you tomorrow for What's on Prime.